Yeah, so I noticed a couple things. You've done a lot with leading small group leaders and things through our church, and have been involved in helping form teams. And one of the things you want to do is see people come up who can lead and facilitate discussions effectively. So we always have a team, a host couple, apprentice couple, and lead. And so that way the impact can spread. And I think that's just kind of good leadership principles. If they didn't go through the e-spread and then begin to divide up and form new teams, you don't get the next generation of leaders, and you don't perpetuate what you're doing. The other thing I noticed is the winds of adversity build not only build character, but they help you bond with other people. And some people say, this is the worst thing I've ever gone through. You know, it's really difficult. But after they go through it and work through it, there's this bond that I mean, you guys in the military, there's always these people like they're 70 years old and they get together with their buddies from in their 20s because of that bond that was formed. Yeah. And so you're able to work together because of that. That's good.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. All right, we're going to come back to the stages of COGS ladder in a little bit, but first I want to do another discussion talk about leaders and followers. A lot of the ROTC programs are really leadership development courses. That's our curriculum, is we're trying to develop people as leaders, as officers. That's kind of your number one job. Your number one priority is to be a leader, to lead people, to do a mission. We also talk about followers. And I want you guys to think of follower as not a kind of off to the side minion sort of term. Followership is actually very important. It's almost important as being a leader. I myself have to be a follower as well. Everybody's got a boss. I've got a boss. I have to be a leader, but I also have to be a follower. So when we talk about effective leaders, I think you guys can kind of maybe come up with some characteristics of what do you think a leader is. When we think about followers, we talk about effective followers and what makes a person an effective follower. And that doesn't mean that they just do what they're told. That doesn't mean that they just sit and wait and just sitting at my desk waiting for someone to tell me what to do. No, we want people that are active, that can think for themselves, that can make decisions. I'm not going to go too into that because that's what I want you guys to brainstorm. I want to have this group over here use the whiteboard. I was going to say blackboard, the whiteboard, and come up with attributes of an effective follower. Okay, I want you to write them up on the board. Smart thing. Over here, you guys can use this whiteboard over here. And I want you to write attributes of what you think a good leader has. All right. I'll give you 5 minutes. Okay, just 5 minutes.
Oh, you got the pen machine?
Okay, ready to go. Okay.
Capable of operating in.
How's it not work?
Andrew, what do you want to do with the online?
Oh, yeah, for all you online, throw some attributes in the chat. We'll read them off. Yeah, throw some attributes of a follower or a leader in the chat if you're online.
This one here. Thinking of this whole program, this colleagues, Copia, he said, well, you need to be here in this room. Yeah, he's going. And now I know why he's saying that.
Criticism?
Looks for like new approaches to certain problems. So that falls. Yeah, yes. Like I would say operates independently. Is like they know already what they're supposed to do, so they don't really need to be told specifically.
Take communication with the leader.
Yeah.
Expresses what needs
Communication.
I heard him say it, but I was on the communication.
I think a lot when you're a follower, or I guess not the leader, you give insight to the leader, and you give insight to like advice. Oh, I think we should do this, but at the end of the day, you still have to defer to who's actually.
So like feedback, right, is willing to provide.
They're willing to like.
Yeah.
Lead by example.
Is there practical?
Transparent.
I think really to provide that.
How about transparency? Like, so,
Why don't you just?
I don't know. 'Cause I feel like we can like.
It technically like falls under
Keep the
different,
vision in mind.
Like,
That's
it's-
You guys enjoy it.
or multiple terms fall under the same umbrella,
I mean,
like, you know,
yeah,
operates in. So I understand. I suppose.
That's what sharing experiences.
Yeah.
That's, because that's a lot of the concerns are made. They like,
Seeing
they
something
like
that
hearing how it applies.
You know, that's being done wrong.
People that
Feel like
aren't
there's
here.
a better way to do it. I like especially the outside seconds.
Nothing's gonna happen though if you don't actually put it in.
She's just so fast, like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like I built up my team and now they left, so.
If they don't
Yeah,
say,
or
"Hey,
worse, it's like I built a great team and now I'm being moved to another team,
Yeah.
to lead another team.
You guys got 3, come on, let's go.
On like the opposite end of operating independently, but also have to be able to
And the individual. If we don't.
like collaborate
Know
and
that they're in charge.
work
of
with the
everything,
other members of the
they
team.
have a specific relationship with every single person. They can Understand that you're. Understand. I think
You're being flexible, being able to
they will have. support.
change what you do to work with the other team members. Is what you think.
mission oriented, or like goal oriented.
Also, I don't know what you call this, but like.
They prioritize the goals of the
Thank you.
team over
Next year.
Like from.
I
love to.
Really understanding why
Right.
the second stage
I'm
is
still,
like.
yeah, as long as I'm still, yeah.
I think it's really important.
And I think I will be
to
more than likely,
Truly
but I also am
understand like
hoping,
missions
you
that
know,
are like what mission
dad
goals
is
there
looking
are.
We all need a leader that only gets mad at you when you just.
She's still in central. I thought she was starting.
When you never.
There's no why, so that's why, so if there's no motivation, then
Class today.
that's.
But I do, I kind of said to the university, I need.
All right, 30 more seconds, kind of any last minute qualities.
And-
Need somebody.
Good attitude.
Yes, right. Your signs are right now.
She's got a lot.
You got it, especially on.
Yeah, good attitude.
Yeah, 'cause I just can't, I still have.
Yeah, we're welcome. We're welcome.
Get more points if you get.
Your input. And getting, that's good network. It's a challenge. Yeah. Forward here.
And I guess that would like to include.
My expertise is
they're
in
willing to
recruiting
take
and
risks.
especially with this internal recruiting piece, which is, you know, all these steps, you're all pulling in
Yeah.
different directions. It's really gonna come down to really engaging those professors who's in those senior, you know, departments, for each department.
All right, that's good. That's good. Let's come back together as a group. Let's sit back down.
Overlap with a couple.
We gotta go. All right. All right, we'll start off with this team over here. We got qualities of leadership. So these are the things that you guys thought were important in leaders, that you see in leaders: ability to see potential, expertise, good listener, takes constructive criticism and applies it, positivity, communication, humility, lead by example, be a good example, keeps the vision. That's important. Definitely for your followers. Charismatic, that's a good one. Cares about the team, fosters leadership, growth, delegates, decisiveness, recognizing success, positive reinforcement, invested in success of the goal, good network, knows limits, and organizations.
Organization.
Organized.
Yeah.
All right. Good. A lot of good qualities in a leader. I hope I have some of those. Myself. All right. As far as follower, operates independently, a good communication there. We'll see some of these repeating, provides feedback. That's always a good process. Having the courage to say, hey, leader, I'm going to give you some feedback on what I think. Collaborating, humility, there's another repeat, flexibility, goal-oriented, understands mission, asks for help, have a good attitude, active listener. We had a good listener over there. I'm sensing a lot of some similar qualities in a leader and a follower. There are some good distinctions, but I think you guys like delegation, leading by, you can lead by example as a follower. So let's see, let's read a few off the
Yeah.
chat.
So I've got level-headed, so I assume that can probably apply to both leader or follower.
Yeah.
And then specifically for leader, Spencer said understanding, confident can apply probably follower or leader, flexible, follower, open-minded, being an open-minded follower, I think it's really important. Then leader, knowing when to step up. So right, knowing when to assert oneself as far as a leader, but leadership requirement is very important. Then follower, team player, and that's the list.
Nice. All right, thanks for all the online inputs. Perfect. Here's a few that I had. I think you kind of get onto the point I'm trying to make here, is that a lot of times qualities are similar in leaders and followers. Integrity, commitment to the mission, enthusiastic, effective communicator, humble. All those things are going to apply to both, and we need both of those things. And people got to know when to have that courage to stand up to their leader and say, "Hey, I don't think this is right. I don't think this is the best way. If it's it's not legal, unethical, immoral, you get that one but sir. Here's what I think." The leader's like, "Hey, we're going to do it this way. This is why." Again, if it's not illegal, unethical, immoral, well, that's what we kind of instill in our military members, that you go to accomplish the mission once you've voiced your concerns. And hopefully that good leader is going to take those concerns. They're not going to just disregard, which unfortunately sometimes happens, but a good leader is going to be a good listener. They're going to care about what you have to say, taking all these different opinions and then make the decision on where they're going to go.
I think a good follower takes pride in the roles they play. It doesn't have to be the leader, but they take pride in their role.
In that responsibility, right?
Mhm.
Which can be absolutely critical. I think that's extremely important. The best way I've heard described when it comes to what you just said, but sir, what about? And then, okay, this is what we're doing. I call it the quarterback calling the play, right? There's a point where we're on the clock. Sorry to use football metaphors, but at a certain point where that person is calling and making that decision, and that's what we're moving forward with. One of the biggest challenges I think we run into on the followership side is once that person's called to play, very often you'll see followers sometimes, some who are super supportive, then some who are constantly critical. And there's a way to be critical of that leadership decision while still remaining professional about it, right? There are opportunities within Air Force Army. We've got after action reviews. Those are open forums to talk about, hey, I don't think this thing worked well, or I think this thing worked great. Yes.
I've also been in teams where members of the team, not me, have sabotaged the leader if they didn't agree with the decision they made.
Oh yeah.
They purposely made them look bad by not half-assing it, excuse me.
Yeah.
But they don't try. They try to make the leader look bad because they don't agree with it.
Right.
So sorry.
That's what we call like an alienated follower, that someone's not effective. They're hurting the mission.
Yeah, followers can fall into a lot of different groups. There's the enthusiastic supporter, right? That person says like, I like this. I believe in this. I'm going to support this. There is, I like to call it the wait and seer, right? Like that person's like, I've been around here for 10 years. I've heard about 6 different new programs to address this issue. None of them have actually come to fruition. I'm going to throw some tentative support behind this, but really I'm just waiting for us to fall back to the original plan, right? That's pretty under, that in itself is almost kind of its own level of undermining, right? And then you've got the vocal, like, I'm against this, I'm against what you're doing. And then there's even a fourth one. It's quitter. Person says, I'm out. Nope. I'm going to take the extreme end of the spectrum. I am gone from this institution, this organization, because I don't believe in this plan or this goal. And here's the thing, I don't want to necessarily put negative attributes to all of those folks, right? There may be a time where your ideas and your vision diverge from an organization, you can't stay with them. And that's okay. But how you work with people in those, when you're in one of those zones as a follower, is really, really important. and can really set your team up for success or failure for all your projects, right? So yeah, so you don't always have to be an enthusiastic supporter, but it's important that you do things professionally and tactfully and the best way possible to set your team up to be cohesive. Sorry, didn't mean to.
No, this is what we plan on doing, kind of the back and forth, good,
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay, what I want to move into next, kind of talked about this a little bit, but being a good follower, a good leader is going to be a good follower as well. I want to talk through these things real quick right here. Yes, that's not covering that. We're going to talk about, again, the cogs and stages of this team building, and talk about some of the leadership actions or followership actions that we can do in each stage, and then how maybe a leader or a follower can help us move from one stage to the next. So we'll just take the first one, polite stage. What do you guys think as a leader? What would you do in the polite stage if you're a natural leader or you're selected as a leader? What do you want to do? Go right here.
You definitely start asking the questions that are more relevant and pertinent to the next stage. Like, and it's in the name why we're here. You would start asking questions to the group. Okay, what's your individual motivators that drives you each?
Okay.
What are we all trying to do with the organization that we're all a part of, and making sure people understand that.
So I would say, yeah, that's very good for this stage. That's what I would want a leader to do in this stage. What about the stage? What are the goals? I know you had your hand up.
Make sure nobody gets left out. Everybody gets a chance to introduce themselves.
Okay, so if you see somebody, over that's not really involved, hey, bring them in. Hey, what's your name? What do you think about this? All right, had some more hands over here.
Go ahead.
Just getting to know your people and team, just
Yeah.
having that friendly conversation, treating people like people, and
Right.
just having conversations.
Getting to know each other, maybe outside your work environment, your team, but like go out to eat or something. Just get to know each other on a personal level. Anybody else?
I think it's important that the leader takes initiative right then and there in the polite stage.
Okay.
To show everyone.
How about helping transition out of the polite stage, right? That's a role that a leader probably has to have with this, and especially this is unfortunately an issue that's been attributed to my generation, which cusper right on the verge of exit millennial, right? That we've been attributed with being a little bit overly polite for too long a period of time to the point of being ineffective. And that doesn't mean that you're rude to people, but helping get to the point where you can be honest and upfront with your team members, especially when you've got certain team members that are more invested in being kind and polite than voicing their opinions, helping them facilitate their voice, right? And get their thoughts and ideas out there and feel comfortable and confident doing that. So as a leader, that's in a polite stage, half the battle is helping get people out of it.
Yeah. How about a follower? Oh, you got something? Go for it.
Just last thing, when you're moving from polite stage to kind of why we're here, it also takes some motivational skills, because you're trying to fire up your team and let them know why we're here, this is what we're doing, and actually get them excited to accomplish the task.
Good. As a follower in the polite stage, what are some things you can do to make sure you meet those goals? Yeah.
I think just like enthusiastically participating in anything,
Yeah.
because we have all been a part of a team building exercise where somebody did not want to participate,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't help anybody.
Exactly. Participate. Be an active participant. Listen. Provide thought. It's good. Anybody else?
Don't be an attention hog.
Oh, what?
Don't be an attention hog. Let
Okay.
everyone have their turn.
Yeah. Know when to shut up and let everybody have a turn. So.
For followers, they also need to show up and be ready, because there's nothing, in my opinion anyways, I think it's really embarrassing when as a leader you show up to whatever and then you're just there like, what,
We don't know what to do.
we don't know what to do, like, you should have prepared for this, but,
So come prepared.
yeah.
Yeah. Show up on time.
So one of the most interesting, just practical application things that I've seen somebody do during this phase in a brand new meeting, it was actually an individual who was sitting on a panel. I was kind of watching, and he had written on the bottom of 7 notes, initials on the notes, because he's on this panel with 7 other people. And you were talking about not being an attention hog, not taking up too much time, not being the sole voice that everyone is hearing. I watch and he's doing a check mark every time somebody talks. And he's just kind of watching and doing a check mark every time somebody talks. And I asked him what he was doing after he was done. He's like, I want to make sure that I'm not the one with the most check marks at the end of this thing, that everyone is getting an equal amount. And if I'm on this panel and I see somebody's not getting a chance to talk this much, I especially know that this is a topic that they're good at, I might want to jump in and say, what do you think about this? And try to help bring them back into that conversation. You can do some technical stuff with this to make people feel more comfortable in an environment like that.
Yeah. So once everybody knows each other, that's really the goal of this stage. Is once everybody's got a good grasp on who people are and strengths and weaknesses, that leader can help then move into the next stage. So what is something as a leader? We kind of talked about it a little bit, making sure your group knows the purpose. What are some other things that you would want to do as a leader in this stage, in the why we're here stage?
Clear communication.
So are you talking just in general, communicate clearly, or set up modes of communication? Or...
Well, everything. This, just be clear about what it is you're trying to establish instead of vague. This is a good why we're here. This is why we're here specifically.
So, yeah, really articulate your goals, your vision. Sometimes that can be true in an organization where maybe the goal is kind of muddy and unclear. And if that's the case, maybe you're going to have a harder time having everybody on board to see where we're going.
We have a timeline set in place.
Timeline? Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we need to make sure this happens by this time.
Sense of urgency, which is extremely important in an organization.
I'll make sure that no one gets left behind with understanding.
Yeah, some people need more help understanding what we're doing.
Yeah, there's nothing I consider kind of almost more catastrophic for a team member than being left behind in the why we're here things, right? I don't understand what we're doing entirely, but you feel awkward, right? Because everyone else seems to understand what they're doing. So over explaining this piece, which may make some people frustrated. It's like, oh, we've talked about this 10 times. We talked about our mission, goal, vision, all of these things with super detail. Like, I'm so tired of this. That it's more important that those people are over-informed than a member of your team is under-informed.
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead.
I guess this is only applicable in some situations, but in situations where like follower input is like acceptable, like asking your followers like what their goals are for the organization.
Yeah.
Because if you can like bring your followers along in their goals too, they're less likely to have a divergence of goals and want to leave. They're more likely to want to stay, and they're more likely to want to like actively work because they're invested in the goals as well.
Yeah, it's that buy-in. Like if I feel like, yeah, this is part of what I want to do, I definitely will be more apt to be more productive at achieving that goal. And it's coming from me, or I'm buying into that. This stage also, I mean, as a follower, like I myself have kind of lost bigger picture objectives or goals of why I'm doing things. I get into the daily grind of different tasks and stuff. And I've had periods of my career where I've lost some of that vision or mission of what is my purpose here? What am I actually doing day to day? You know, I'm getting a paycheck, but why does it matter? Why is this important? Why do I want to keep doing it every day? And as a follower, ask for that. If you've lost the why I'm doing things, ask somebody, why are we doing this again? As a leader, make sure you're over explaining that.
Building off of that, arguably one of the greatest risks of a high functioning team is mission creep. What's mission creep? Does anybody know?
It's when we like are like, oh, but we could do this other thing, and we do this, and it gets too
Right.
big. And
Or somebody else comes to you because you've got a really good team and they're telling you, you guys can do this other thing. You guys, oh wow, your team can do this. Okay, the why we're here piece brings us back to it, right? And when somebody tries to put that additional assignment, that might be okay, right? You may need to take on that additional responsibility, but you just have to be really clear that that is a breakaway from your initial goal within that organization, that group. So that why we're here piece is so important for making sure that you don't start to wander, especially for long established teams. I was talking with a team the other day that said like, yeah, we started here But it's been 5 years and now we have a completely different job and no one knows how we got there.
So many responsibilities, roles, and kind of lanes in the road is a good part of this phase. So as a leader, that's another thing. I want to make sure those are clear. Hey, this is our responsibility. These are our roles in the team, even in the team. This is our role as a team to prevent some of that mission. All right, let's go on to the next one. The bid for power, which is also always the most exciting phase. So as a leader, what do you think you can do to help kind of facilitate your team through this phase? Yeah.
Do like a team building exercise.
Okay, what will that do in this phase?
You can, like what we were doing earlier, determine like who's gonna take the first initiative.
Okay.
Who's gonna put all this together, who's gonna do what. or
Okay.
whatever.
So, okay, I see what you're saying. You know, as a leader, you can kind of identify, hey, I got some natural leaders over here. Maybe I'll assign them some roles.
I think this was showcased in the video quite well. You need to bring them back to the main cause, because if they're in that kind of butting heads, trying to see who has more power
Yeah.
in the situation, you need to be like, guys, we're not fighting each other. We need to do this task.
Okay.
And like everyone needs to put their effort and energy into the task at hand, not fighting each other.
Perfect. You're reinforcing those goals. Yep. The mission. You had something?
Yes, focusing on cooperation and in some cases compromise.
Compromise. Okay.
Like if there's conflicting interests, see if there's a way you can bridge the gap.
So yeah, facilitation. Did you say facilitate? I thought I heard it.
Yeah,
That's a good word as a leader in this stage. You're facilitating that collaboration, the back and forth of ideas. Like this stage is all about how we're going to get there. How are we going to achieve this? This is how we're going to operate. So facilitating all those different ideas. There's going to be that conflict of this is the way we should do it. I think this is better than this way. And facilitating, making sure everybody's voice is going to be heard, thinking about the justifications of why this is a good method, why it's not, but ultimately then moving into this is how we're going to do things. How about as a follower, what are the things you're going to try to do in this stage?
Giving constructive feedback.
Constructive feedback, not just whining or complaining. Perfect. What else?
Sorry, we're on the bid for power, right?
Yes, good for power. As a follower.
don't let your ego get the best of you. Still remain humble in certain situations where you might not be as qualified as someone else.
Great. Exactly.
And when probably someone else is making some mistakes, right? Like people are making failures, people are screwing up, getting messy, making mistakes, not doing things right. This is the time where you can really shine as a supportive follower who understands that, right? Everyone's heard the term toxic leader before, right? You hear it all throughout. It's such a huge buzzword. It started in the military, but it's spread just about everywhere. Is there such thing as a toxic follower?
Yeah.
There is absolutely such thing as a toxic follower. And I'll tell you, when they tend to kind of rear their ugly head, it's usually within the bid for power phase. Okay. How to avoid either being a toxic follower or working to deal with a toxic follower within the institution. It's really challenging. How could somebody manifest as a toxic follower within bid for power?
They are always complaining about how other people are doing something some way and they don't agree with it. So they like make it apparent for everyone else in the group to be like, I don't like how so-and-so does this because whatever.
Yeah, not even trying to look like they're giving initial buy-in, right? Like there's like, no. Just the simple fact that this is not what I'm used to. I'm not happy with this. Yeah, no, it's a really big challenge. And not only that, but this is also especially where some of your most experienced experienced followers, right? Your super person who's been there for 20 years, knows the system. This is where they can unfortunately sometimes become a toxic follower, right? Because we're dragging them out of their comfort zone into something potentially new or a new idea. Getting their, please.
No, finish.
Getting their buy-in during this phase is extremely important. I'll give you my best example. Young Lieutenant Van Hook, platoon leader in Iraq. Okay. I got a platoon sergeant with 20 years experience, and I have months of experience as being a platoon leader. Before every single mission, before we rolled out on one of our 300 combat patrols, he and I would always sit down and go over what that mission. He'd get a chance to express his concerns, his frustration about some things. He'd get a chance to express what he was excited about. But his voice was always heard. And what that did is allowed the rest of the platoon, because he's got expert power, to get better buy-in with that idea, to know that their voices were being heard as well. So communication is how you avoid toxic followers within this type of situation.
I've found this happen in 3 different ways when I was in management. The first one was lack of training. People would become toxic because they said, I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
And they become frustrated. And that's something that as a company we could fix.
Right.
The other one was lack of resources. Well, I don't have that, so how can I do this? And they become angry about that. But the final one that is on them was motivation. And that's something that they have to bring, whoever.
Yeah, it's easy to slide into that role. It's become cynical, right? Like it's super easy when you've been in the company or organization for a long time, you become extremely cynical. And not to stereotype, but unfortunately within the world of cyber and IT, there's the angry IT person, right? I'm always amazed by some of our folks that work over at Central within our computer support services. For folks that deal with just frustrating users like myself on a daily basis, they are the kindest, happiest, like, we're here to help you group of people I have ever met in my entire life. And one day I asked the person who's in charge of them, Andreas Bowman, like, how do you do that? It's like, it is part of our culture. Like, that is what we do. That's our mission. It's to make this easier and to make this less, difficult. So that's part of our culture and part of our training. So, sorry, getting way off topic, but that's this is such an important part to talk about.
So you mentioned motivation. That I guess I would play the other side. It's not all on the individuals, the followers. I think at least in military curriculum, we definitely teach that leadership. That is part of your job as well. To figure out how to motivate different people. They're going to be motivated different ways. There's extrinsic motivation. If people are motivated by money or bonuses or time off or something like that. And then there's the intrinsic motivation that they want to do something just because it matters and because it's important to them. And as a leader, just trying to figure out like what motivates that person. Maybe it is money. Maybe it's something they want to be the best at something. So that, I guess I agree with all your statements. I would say also the motivation part is also on a leader to try to figure that out and help them.
That's a good point.
All right, let's move into our constructive phase, the 4th phase here. And let's, again, what are some of the leadership actions or even followership actions that we can do to make sure we're going to be effective at this stage? Yeah.
I think making sure every team member is put in the position that they're going to be the most effective in.
Okay.
Even if it isn't the most glamorous and maybe their ego will be hurt a little bit, it's about helping the team,
Yeah. So yeah, at this stage, things are working together. Everyone's kind of bought into the mission. They know kind of how things are going to go. And you're also putting people into maybe the right skill sets or where their strengths will be utilized the most. Yeah.
Lead from the front.
Lead from the front. What does that mean?
Be there, be present.
Okay.
Don't give the orders and disappear.
Okay.
Be involved.
Nice.
Hold the team along instead of push it.
Excellent. Yeah, we've all seen those pictures of leadership, and they're not standing in the back, just using the whip, cracking the whip. They're out front. They're pulling along with the people. They're getting in. Good.
Yeah. I would say making sure that whatever organization that you're with, that you can maintain the amount of resources, the amount of, I guess, equipment that you might need to complete the task.
Okay, so as a leader, you may make sure that your mission is going to be sustainable and that you can continue this on resources, people. Okay. How about a follower? What's the best thing you can do in this stage as a follower?
So just back to a leader, one of the things that I thought was important was when you give constructive criticism to someone, that a lot of times you'll hear good job, but you don't know why. Okay. So it's an empty statement.
Yeah.
But when you can say good job because this is what you did, that really builds someone up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's as a leader down to the followers, like, hey, I liked how you did this, to be specific about that. Even follower to follower, like peer to peer, hey, you did a good job. I noticed you did this really good. I was impressed. That can go a long way to build and help everybody move into that next stage. Good, thank you. How about the spree stage? How do we move from just getting the mission done in the constructive phase? How do we move into this spree stage?
You're gonna know your teammates really well, so you know when to delegate, like what tasks everyone is good at, who should do what.
Yeah, so you make sure you keep up with that. We don't just get to know everybody's name and kind of what their pet's name is, and then we move on. We're continually getting to know them, their strengths and weaknesses, okay? What else? What is something you could do as a leader? Okay, you got this constructive phase, your team's kind of working together, they've got problems, they're working together. What's something that you can do to help boost up to that spree stage?
Challenge your team.
Put challenges in front of them,
Mhm.
kind of motivate them to, hey, we can do this. Maybe we can do more.
I think listening is extremely important in that phase.
Yeah.
It's instead of stagnating, that's when you need to be listening to the people and finding those little things we can tweak to make us even more effective.
Okay, so yeah, fine tuning. It's good. Yeah.
We set goals and be clear about what new goals are. So once you've like completed it, don't just be like, well, did a good job, but like you did a good job and now here's our next goal and here's what we're working towards again.
Okay.
So you don't just like lose motivation and lose work.
This is the refinement phase.
Yeah.
This is very often where you
Okay.
see the refinement phase, where you're actually now double checking everything. Is this working well? Is it not working well? Is it, yeah, and you're making those changes. And you're celebrating the fact that you've gotten to the point where you can actually start to refine your processes, right? Not just like, oh, that's not working, this sucks. No, it's like, hey, we've reached a point where we got our system functional, now we just need to make it work better. So that, yeah, so celebrating those things are important. I'm sorry, I saw a hand.
I was gonna say exactly.
Oh, okay, awesome, cool. All right, our minds are synced, we're great. Yeah, celebrating milestones for this one is really important, and it's super easy as a leader, especially if you've been there for a long time and you're tired of celebrating, anniversaries and milestones. But those matter very often, especially to new employees. Hey, I've made it a year in this company. My software, my system, this thing I developed has breached 100,000 users. That's fantastic. Yes, please.
Retrospective meetings to talk about what worked and what didn't work, just to keep the momentum moving forward for the next project.
Absolutely. Yeah, retrospective meetings, the ability to take a look at those systems and really, and give them a good look and say, like, is this working the way we intended? And then, hey, how can we make it better? So, absolutely.
So there's one more I want to add. It's my favorite one that a leader can do, or a follower in this stage. You guys have a favorite sports teams or robotic teams? Identity, team identity. Give someone a team name or a uniform. It's kind of important in the military. Like we have units. I'm part of this detachment, and I'm proud of that. I have a strong bond to that group of people. So as a leader, you can work with your team. Hey, let's come up with, who are we? What's our identity? That identity is going to be a key to working in that spree stage, not just staying in the constructive phase where, yeah, we're getting things done. We're doing the mission. No, I'm a member of this team and I'm proud of it. And I don't want to leave this team. If new members come in, that kind of can disrupt the team a little bit and you kind of have to reshuffle.
Yeah, so just gotta be a little bit careful with the with some of the, putting the t-shirt, getting that type of stuff, because it can become a little bit superficial, right? You see companies do this all the time. There's one I'm looking at right now, Salesforce does this a ton. They have all this crazy branded stuff to make you part of that team and inculcate that team. But by far, honestly, one of the best things that you can do, because what tends to happen during this days, you're a high functioning team at this point, right? So you're getting hit up for everything, to do all those extra jobs, to pull extra weight, right? Every time that happens and it's my team, I come in and I say, hey, guess what? Guess who they're calling on again? They're calling on the A team, because we are the ones that get the stuff done. Celebrate that. Tell them how they're getting more work is actually a sign that they're doing great. Then also as a boss and a leader, go back to your other bosses and make sure that you're not getting your team getting overworked in that process, right?
Yeah. Keep that bandwidth healthy. we're gonna do one more discussion here. I know we're kind of running up on 12 o'clock, so we'll end with some of these questions here. Things to think about. This is gonna be a rhetorical question. Think about some of the teams that you've been a part of. You know, what'd you like about them? What didn't you like about them? I'll leave that for you guys to kind of think about. I want to talk about this question here. Why don't you think all the teams will move through these phases at the same rate? Or do they? Yeah.
Because like any group of individuals,
They're all different. They're all different. Every team's going to be different. Yeah.
that's like he touched on it earlier, like having a more present, a more important goal, I guess, to each individual can kind of force the team to move forward maybe faster than they should, but
Okay. And levels of importance of what they're doing. Yeah.
But there can be situational challenges if you're working on a team that works remote and you live in different countries. It can be difficult to build the team
Okay.
the same rate
Yeah.
because you are dealing with different factors that.
Yeah, we've got all these different variables that, you know, in the flight stage, you might not be able to get to know each other quite as well, and that's going to take longer. Or maybe you're a team that has been doing this every semester, and oh, I know these people already. Well, it's gonna go like this, and it's gonna go quick.
Not to use an overused term, but the challenge of the online workplace has completely changed this paradigm, right? Like on how we're able to effectively do this. And the speed by which individuals feel they become part of a team, it's much slower than it used to be. Like there's just stuff you can't do and you know, bonding you can't have when it's over through a computer screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, part of their leadership challenge is figuring out how to make those interactions happen as much as you possibly can, or as much as your company budget will often allow you to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes skipping steps happens. I kind of mentioned one, or maybe where you would go through the flight stage pretty quick. Can you guys think of any other reasons or phases that maybe a team would skip altogether? Yeah.
Could be time constraints due to a deadline. Maybe you're scrambling to move faster with the project or something.
Yeah, like, hey, we don't have time to get to know each other. Like, we got a deadline. Someone else. Yeah.
With the new virtual world, like skipping that bid for power, since you're not having that face-to-face interactions, if it's, you know, an occasional Zoom meeting,
Yeah.
I could see how there isn't that aggression.
Okay.
This is a fascinating point that a lot of that person who used to be able to do that kind of back talk by the water cooler undermining, they're not able to do that nearly as effectively anymore. At the very least, now there's a digital rabbit trail. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they're not able to effectively do that as much anymore. What's the opposite side of that coin though?
You don't have those interpersonal relations.
Yeah, that tie, that nesting within an organization that I love the people I work with type feeling, right? Is much harder to get.
Something I learned in the military, when you've got two different teams that have to come together for a specific thing, the one that comes to mind is a bridge build we did over the Tigris River. We brought in an infantry platoon to watch our backs. We didn't need to go through some of those phases because we all knew our own mission. And so when you've got multiple teams coming together to accomplish a common goal, sometimes you can skip some of this.
Yeah, you don't always have to force it, right? Like, and sometimes you're going to be working with an organization just long enough that's like, you know, we can probably stay in the polite phase for most of this. Like, I don't need to go through all this development because honestly, we're probably not going to work together that long. But then it also gives you a chance you can still celebrate that interaction, right? You know, that group photo of like, hey, this is what our group accomplished. That can sometimes be much longer lasting than these very long-term efforts.
I still know some of those people that I worked with for 40 hours and I still keep in touch with some of those people.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So I guess if I understand, you're saying you kind of skipped the why we're here because you guys already knew, like
Exactly.
everybody knew why you guys were there.
We all knew our mission.
Yeah. You need to spend just time.
They showed up, we showed up, we went to work.
Yeah. So you might even skip that bid for power stage as well. Yes.
In high school, like club sports teams that like brought people from different schools, everyone would kind of already have a couple friends on the team. So you kind of skip the like getting to know you stage and you sort of like work towards the goals first and then you like sort of meet the other people as the season sort of progresses.
And that's very common to work with people, and the military too, it's a small community. I'll work with people my first assignment and then I'll go to another assignment and then a third assignment and that person now linked up. So you kind of get to know people and you already know some people and you already don't, or you won't know some people. That can be disruptive as well. When maybe in a group that you're working on that esprit or constructive phase and you guys are tight, we kind of talked about this already, but tight group and you lose people or gain new people, you gotta have to start over and get to know those new people. That happens quite a lot. Do you think, well, they don't. Why don't most teams make it to the esprit stage? Yeah.
I think talent is noticed when your team's doing well, like even in the constructive stage, and those people get moved up to higher teams or different assignments, or sometimes the same team doesn't work on multiple assignments. They get split off as soon as their first one's done. So.
Yeah, I'm a recruiter. So that comment about talent, yeah, talent's not just noticed, but it's noticed much faster than it used to be a few years ago. I'm already, if I was in the private sector, I am going after members of your team the minute that you pop up on my radar as being competent and effective, right? So that team already, you're getting into the barely the constructive phase, and we're already starting to pull your top talent away from you. Yeah, it makes for a really challenging environment when trying to build off of this. Please.
It may not move into that stage because the project wasn't successful. And there's less to celebrate.
But yeah, it just fails, morale's down. Yeah.
And there's a thing to deal with as a leader, right? Like dealing with failure, like dealing with success, that's easy. I mean, you could write a whole book about how to deal with failures within an organization while still keeping your team motivated and full. It's hard. And there's no easy blueprint to that model. So that's a great point.
One more comment.
Yes, I was thinking the reason why it might not make it to the spirit stage was going to be the shift, like maybe a certain job has a shifting work environment to where you're being moved around a lot.
Yeah, it takes time to bring that loyalty to a group. Stuff. We're gonna move in just a summary. We don't have time actually for our case study.
We'll get some on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll get some.
Professor Banke's got some good ones, so, yeah.
Well, just do some closing remarks, I guess. Does anybody know Simon Sinek? He's an author. He's wrote a few books, does TED Talks and stuff. Trustworthiness is, I think, I would offer it, it's one of the most important things of a team working together. We talked about today, hope you guys got something out of it, just the stages of a team. And this is not always the case with every team, right? These are just kind of things we observe and how teams grow. We talked about some of the leadership and followership attributes and qualities that could be used in a team, how we're going to move from one phase to another. The goal, of course, is to get to that esprit stage where you're a well-oiled machine, kind of get out of the way, things are working, high morale, everybody's happy, you guys are very effective. That's the goal. Not everybody makes it there. But you as a leader, you as a follower can do certain things to make sure you're moving from one stage to the next and doing your best to be the most effective. Hopefully, yeah, take away something. If you do, I know we kind of have a few ties to the military with midshipmen and cadets. But if you guys have other questions about their work and what they're going off to do, feel free to talk with them, talk with us if you're interested in the Air Force, Space Force, Army programs. I'll turn over if you have any closing thoughts.
Just to say thank you all for your time. You've been a great.
Can I ask a question that I think I'm really curious about what you're going to do in the Space Force? What is your mission? What kinds of things?
Yeah, so just like any other domain, air, land, sea, we have assets that are operating in space. And so the Space Force mission is to defend those assets from adversaries if there were to be a conflict. So we're different. NASA is exploration, scientific experiments. Space Force is a military branch, and we are there to operate the DoD satellites and protect them from adversaries. In any conflict, any war, the adversary is going to be trying to take away your advantage. So the communication, your intelligence, whatever that advantage is that you have over them, they're going to try to take that out. Well, we've got a huge advantage that comes from our space assets. Navigation, we've got missile warning, communication. We operate with space deeply embedded into everything we do, daily lives as well. I'm not just talking about military life, but civilian life, timing with stock market, money transactions, weather, all these things that rely on space. And so to take that advantage out, right, that's how an adversary will try to win in a conflict. Hopefully a conflict doesn't happen. That's what the military essentially is, right, is to protect in the case that our government needs to defend our nation, our interests. I don't want to have to do that, but that's what the Space Force is there for. So as me personally, I operate satellite systems that the Space Force owns. I've operated a few constellations. So we make sure we're doing that mission, whether it's provide images, intelligence, missile warning, whatever it is. Just make sure that we're looking at, hey, if the enemy or adversary tries to deny us those things, how do we protect against it? Some questions?
Is it purely defensive in the sense that the enemy has constellations
Sure.
as well?
Yeah. No, we're a military, so we're ready to fight and win. And yeah, I would say this is the one thing, and this is me. I'm gonna say this is Paul Hyde, not Major Hyde. That I think there's definitely we're threatened by other countries. They're threatened by what we're doing. We're kind of trying to bring our capabilities to a certain level that we can show, hey, don't mess with us. But that almost is like a kind of trying to one up everybody. And so that threat that we are perceived to have from other countries and that we feel from other countries, it almost feeds itself into a competition. And we are human beings that from the beginning of time have fought. Like that's what we do. We fight each other. I hate it. But that's what the military is there for, is to fight and win. Is that other comments, questions?
I got one
Yeah.
at the International Space Station. So we just had a lady from Richland just come back with the Artemis program. She was around the International Space Station. How is that tied into? Because that's a multinational kind of effort going on there. What's our piece and part of that defending the US, I guess, assets up there?
Yeah, I mean,
Or has that been discussed?
I mean, we definitely provide collision avoidance things. So the DoD is tasked to track space objects. So we're always tracking where are these objects? Are they a threat to hit the International Space Station? As far as operations go, that's like NASA. And
right.
It's not really
SpaceX and all that.
Yeah.
ISS doesn't have that much time anyway. It's got a few more down to keep extending its lifespan. Like,
well, the next step is the moon. So they're already pushing that with the Artemis of having that.
Yeah.
So is Space Force going to be a part of that
not
fixed
for the,
structure on the moon to be a
not for the
launching pad?
foreseeable future that I'm aware of. No, that's going to be all for in the name of exploration.
Gotcha.
Yeah, not claiming the moon as territory and defending it.
All right, let's give the. That was just really wonderful. I'm glad I was able to sit in on this instead of learning how to teach, which I've been doing all my life. And that, as good as that session was, that I missed, I'll be listening to it. I'm really glad I could come to this. So thank you guys for this. We have just right at an hour, 1 o'clock, back down in Todd 203.